So the Las Vegas Raiders obviously dropped the game to the Denver Broncos just a couple days ago. And in that game, we had Maxx Crosby and Brock Bowers not do a whole lot, at least according to what some Raider fans are kind of putting out there. And Sean Payton kind of also touched on this, and some people are saying he's trolling both Brock Bowers and Maxx Crosby. Some people are saying he's taking a shot at both of those guys. I want you guys to listen into what Sean Payton had to say, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
You know, the elite teams in 17 regular season games will be really ready for 13 or 14 of those games. And then the ones that are not, they still find a way to win. And they may lose a few, but they find a way still. I said to him today, that, you know, our team a year ago didn't win this game. You know, we were the better team today. And we didn't always play like it, but we'll get those things cleaned up. Gardner is tough when he gets out of the pocket. And so every time he got out of the pocket, I'm screaming at Vance and every defensive coach, you know, we want to cage rush him. And when we can keep him there, but 89, 98, 19. And those are really good players. But we didn't hear from them a lot.
So there you guys have it, right? Sean Payton is obviously putting it out there saying that you didn't really hear from either of those two guys. He talked about Gardner Minshew and how they cage rushed him, quote unquote. He's talking about how they were able to shut those two guys down. And he talked about, you know, just generally speaking, how the Broncos are a much better team this year than they were last year. And although Sean Payton is right to say that we didn't hear much about Maxx Crosby, we didn't hear much about Brock Bowers, I don't 100% agree with exactly what he's saying. Now, Brock Bowers is its own story, but with Maxx Crosby specifically, I feel like one of the things that happens is if a guy doesn't have like 3 or 4 sacks, if a guy isn't absolutely getting after the quarterback on every single play and you can visibly see it and someone's pointing it out, right, like the broadcast crew, whatever it is, people start to say, where is this guy at? To me, Sean Payton didn't necessarily take a shot at either of those two guys. I think he's giving credit to those guys, but it's really just talking about how they game plan to these guys, which also just takes you to the point that Maxx Crosby is being game planned against. You know, in the first week of this season, Joe Watt came in and people were like, Joe Watt shut down Maxx Crosby. And that was the narrative that ultimately got started, and that was the narrative that started getting pushed. And narratives are certain things that are most of the time never true. Right? We know this in every aspect of life. Narratives are not always facts. And with Maxx Crosby not having a good season or whatever the narrative is at this point with him, it's not true either. In fact, if you guys just watched the Denver Broncos game, and trust me, I've went back and watched every single one of these snaps multiple times. In fact, Maxx Crosby actually had a really, really good game against the Denver Broncos. He made 17 positive plays. Right? These are plays that he actually impacted. And you know, with Maxx Crosby, when you really watch the tape, one of the things you're going to notice is there's multiple run plays. You know, it's 1st and 10 and you're losing 3 yards because Maxx Crosby is blowing it up. And now instead of, you know, 2nd and 7, it's 2nd and 13 now, right? Maxx Crosby's flipping it for the defensive side of the football. The reason why the Raiders can stay, you know, close to these teams like the Denver Broncos, for example, we're up going into halftime. Right? The Raiders can stay up on these teams and keep it close because of guys like Maxx Crosby. Maxx Crosby not only made multiple plays against the run, he had multiple plays where he chased things down on screen plays. He had multiple plays where he was pressuring the quarterback, and the quarterback was getting the ball out. You know, let's not overlook the fact that Bo Nix is a good quarterback. However you guys want to look at it, some people will hate on it. Bo Nix is a really, really good quarterback, and you can already see that in his rookie year. You know, I'm not saying he's a superstar or anything like that, but he looks good, right? One of the things that happens is Maxx Crosby's beating that tackle and he's getting pressure, but the quarterback feels it, right? He sees it, he feels it, and he gets the ball out. He checks it off or whatever it ends up being, right? The quarterback is a big reason as to if a defensive lineman is going to be able to have success or not. Josh McDaniels famously said this 2 years back that sometimes it doesn't really matter if your offensive linemen individually are good players. If your quarterback can get the ball out quickly, if he can play within rhythm, it doesn't matter. You're not going to have the time to get to the quarterback anyways. The Chargers took this same approach in that first game of the season, and I had talked about it at that point, but people overlook it, right? People are going to continuously overlook it. You know, even today or the other day against the Denver Broncos, the Broncos took that same approach. They're getting the ball out, right? They're doing some things where they're trying to limit Maxx or triple teaming him at times. They're running bootlegs away from Maxx, right? So this guy is having an impact out there. I think people just don't recognize it, and I think that's why sometimes when you're following people on Twitter or on Instagram or on TikTok, and they're saying Maxx Crosby's overrated or overpaid or whatever it is, just realize that there's a lot that happens on the football field, right? There's different strategies and different schemes. There's different game plans coming in. And oftentimes Maxx Crosby's impacting the strategy on the other side of the field, right? Sean Payton is going to look at Maxx and say, we need to take this guy out, right? And Sean Payton's a great coach, right? Let's not overlook that fact either. But some people are saying Sean Payton took a shot at Maxx Crosby. I wouldn't say it's a negative shot necessarily, but he is definitely letting it known that they shut him down. But we'll see what ends up happening next year when the Raiders are 100% healthy, when they're good to go. We'll see what ends up happening. I want to wrap this video up. I want to just talk about a couple more things that have happened that have officially been confirmed. Tom Pelissero has put it out there that the Raiders are preparing to start Aidan O'Connell at quarterback Friday. So we talked about Aidan O'Connell yesterday. We talked about how he was starting practice, right? He was doing the walkthrough yesterday with the Raiders. That was not open to the media. Today's the first day it is open to the media. He'll be out there again, once again today. And he is starting for the Raiders, according to Tom Pelissero. And this is great news in my opinion, right? Because I want to see what Aidan O'Connell can do with Scott Turner, because I hate saying this, and we're saying this in every video at this point, it's not guaranteed that we're going to have a whole new coaching staff or even a whole new quarterback next year. None of that's guaranteed. You know, if Aidan O'Connell wins 2 or 3 games to end this season, we're going to have like the 15th overall pick. We're not getting a quarterback at that point, right? So Aidan O'Connell could easily be our quarterback going into next season. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that necessarily. I'm not even saying I agree with Antonio Pierce being the coach, but that's probably going to happen at this point. If you guys remember, I talked about this last year. I didn't want Antonio Pierce. I didn't want Luke Getsy, right? I talked about this multiple times as to why I didn't agree with it. But when it happened, I was okay with it. And I said, Antonio Pierce can have success depending on his offensive coordinator. That's the only way he'll have success. And obviously it didn't work out for the Raiders up to this point, but maybe Scott Turner flips that a little bit. And maybe Aidan O'Connell is the quarterback he needs to be able to flip that. You know, I pushed this entire narrative in the offseason that Aidan O'Connell was very, very slow. He can't outrun a defensive lineman. He can't outrun a nose tackle that's like 350 pounds. And this year, I think he has looked a lot faster than he looked last year. And I was wrong in saying that this guy can't outrun people. Now, he's not the quickest, right? And that is still a fact no matter how you look at it. But we might be able to actually win with Aidan O'Connell if the quick game is right, which he'll be a lot better with Scott Turner out there, right? With Luke Getsy, the quick game was terrible. With Scott Turner, it's a lot better, and that should help Aidan O'Connell have success. Plus, I think his pocket awareness is a lot better than Gardner Minshew, so hopefully that allows him to have success as well. And this is the best offensive line unit that we're going to have this season, right? It's the 5 guys that are going to start against the Chiefs. So we'll see what ends up happening, but Aidan O'Connell is supposed to start. And then finally, I know some people were kind of excited for, you know, Daniel Jones potentially coming to the Raiders. But Jordan Schultz is putting it out there that despite the interest from the Raiders, Daniel Jones has eliminated Las Vegas from consideration. Although Ian Rappaport was one of the guys that put it out there that Daniel Jones is the guy the Raiders are going to potentially bring in. It might work out. Jordan Schultz is a much better source than Ian Rappaport. I am guaranteeing you guys that right now. Jordan Schultz is the guy that I've spoken to. He follows me. I follow him on Twitter. I've spoken to him multiple times. I'll just give you guys a quick example. Jordan Schultz told me Malcolm Koonce's injury was season ending, and I spoke about that multiple times. And then The Athletic reported the opposite side, right? They said that he'll be back in 4 weeks. It's a short-term injury. And I took The Athletic's word for that, and I kind of flipped and said, hey, maybe it's not a season-ending injury. Jordan Schultz told me that it 100% is a season-ending injury. And then, 3 weeks later, we were told Malcolm Koonce is done for the year. Right, so Jordan Schultz is a really, really, really good source. And for him to put it out there that Daniel Jones is not coming to the Raiders, I trust it. Does it really matter? Probably not, right? But we do got to recognize that nothing's guaranteed at this point, right, when it comes to the quarterback position. Some people are saying that Cam Ward does not look like the first overall pick, nor does Shadir Sanders. And some people are saying this is kind of like that draft in which Kenny Pickett came out. I think it was a 2022 draft. Don't quote me on that. But that same year where Kenny Pickett came out, people are saying this is kind of similar to that draft where none of these quarterbacks are first-round players. And you could take a quarterback if you want, right? Because we're seeing quarterbacks that might not be that good go in the top 5 anyways, right? We've seen it for years now. People are saying you would ultimately make the mistake if you take one of those quarterbacks and they bust out, as opposed to Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, or Will Johnson. They were saying those 3 guys are locked in to be superstars. Abdul Carter, locked in to be a superstar. Caleb Banks out of Florida, locked in to be a superstar player. And yet, the Raiders might reach on a quarterback. So we'll see what ends up happening, right? And it's one of the reasons why some people are saying Daniel Jones could have made sense for the Raiders. Maybe he doesn't do a whole lot this year, but he has an off season with, if it's Scott Turner, if it's another offensive coordinator, and then going into next year, maybe he gets the Raiders into the playoffs, right? But obviously that's not going to happen with Daniel Jones at this point. He is trying to get to a playoff team, and that's good for him, right? We'll see what ends up happening. I want to know what you guys think, man. What do you guys think about Maxx Crosby? Do you guys think it's overrated, the whole narrative that kind of exists with Max, and he's not having a good year, whatever it is? At the same time, what do you guys expect from the quarterbacks and the team, generally speaking, as we kind of go forward? It's a very, very, very interesting week because the Raiders are kind of eliminated this season. At the same time, we have a short week, so got a game on Friday, and then we have a holiday coming up as well, right? So it's just an interesting week as we kind of go forward. We'll find out if how much the Raiders really practice, how much Aidan O'Connell can really get up to speed. We're gonna find out a lot this week, man. I'm excited regardless of how you guys look at it. It's a Raiders game. We got the Chiefs, divisional opponent. Always would love to be able to ruin seasons if that's possible. So we'll see what ends up happening. Let me know what you guys think. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.